The Black Robe Brigade, they were responsible for the revolution according to the British, and I mean everything I read.
And John Adams and other founders as well.
Right. Samuel Adams was, we're going to do a special tomorrow or Friday on Samuel Adams for Founders Friday. You're joining us for that, are you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. Let me show you the Muhlenberg. This is the guy, he was the preacher in Virginia. That he's here, this is the statue of him in the Capitol where he's taking off the robe after he preached his sermon and said, "Let's go, boys." But he had a brother.
He had a brother.
Show the brother here and tell me his story.
His brother is Frederick Augustus Muhlenberg, who pastored up in New York City. And when Pastor Frederick in New York City heard what his brother Peter had done, he said, "Wrong. You should have stayed in the pulpit. Church shouldn't get involved in this stuff." And that's what his brother believed until the British came marching into New York City in 1777, threw him out of his church, and as he stood outside, they desecrated his church, and he has this epiphany. He says, maybe I ought to get involved as well, or I'm going to lose my liberties. And so he decides to get involved. He actually ends up being the Speaker of the House in Pennsylvania, helps write their original Constitution, and he is the first ever Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. There's only 2 signatures on the bottom Bill of Rights, and one is his, the Reverend Frederick Augustus Muhlenberg. And significantly, his brother had become a major general in the Revolution by that time, one of Washington's top generals.
Okay, so David, I guess what I'm introducing here to America, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the fact that we are a nation of religious people, of morals, of God. This is his land, his rights.
Yeah.
He was instrumental, but it took people with a spine to stand up. And it wasn't about politics.
No.
They were not standing in the church, because I would leave a church that starts talking to me about politics.
Yeah.
It's not about who to vote for, what party to be in. This is about individual rights, not human rights. I'm getting a lot of heat from churches now because of Jim Wallace, and he says, you know, social justice, it's what Jesus would have.
That's collective rights. Jesus was not into collective rights. He didn't die for the world at large. He died for every single individual. When you go belief.
When you go up to be judged, he's not like Beck party of 10,
that's right.
Beck party of 10. It's one.
Individually. He can track individually. And that's what was so unique about America, is we had this concept of individual. Now we're getting collective. That is socialistic Marxism.
And social justice has been out for the last century. Started in the 20s, and I know you have.
Yeah, here's a sermon. I mean, we used to have some backbone in churches, and we've allowed ourselves to be compartmentalized into a little bitty thing, and the government tells us what we can talk about. We've let the IRS get in. We had a lot of courage before. We said, no, no, no. And so here's a sermon talking about the evils of social justice, how it's creeping into the churches, how it perverts doctrine, perverts belief. And it really goes back to a couple of guys who started what's social gospel movement. You know, Harry Ward and Reinhold Niebuhr are the 2 guys that brought that in. And that was a dangerous thing for churches. And now we've let ourselves become completely irrelevant. And so we wonder why numbers are sliding in the polls for our kids.
America, do your homework. We'll try to help you as much as you can. But this is a collective effort on individual rights.
That's right.
Back in a minute.